Welcome back to the Crypto Domain, guys, where we talk about everything crypto from around the domain. Today, we're going to talk about the indicators, the key indicators that I use. Now, remember, I'm not a financial advisor, so you have to do your own research. You have to set your own exit strategies, look at your own indicators. These are just the ones that I use. So I'm going to go through the ones that I use, the key ones, where they were in the last cycle, and how they're looking in this cycle. So why I still believe the top is not in for this cycle. I believe the top is going to come in Q4 still. And we're going to go through the indicators, why I feel that way, where they're at now. So let's crack into it, eh? Okay, so let's have a look at the Bitcoin dominance first. Let me put my seeing eyes on. We can see realistically, when we look back here, you've got 2017. You had the peak was around here at, let's call it 87. Was the peak. Now that spiked before we got the really big run. Now the big run for altcoins really was around the January, right? So we had the peak sort of December-ish for Bitcoin. We had the run around January 18. Now if we have a look at where it was at that time, it was down at 33%, right? And then we had the similar story when we went into 2021, right? So 2021, again, Bitcoin peaked in November, and then we had a bit of an alt run after that, and you can see here, yeah, we're around 40, okay? So not massively dissimilar. This time round, we've had a 65, okay? It says to me as well, we've only got back to 57. It could go back up and down again, but I feel like we should be looking again somewhere around these 40, like this 40 mark. Even if it was 45, we're nowhere near where I would expect to see that Bitcoin dominance. I know we've got ETFs, we've got all those things, but at the moment we're nowhere near where I would expect to see that Bitcoin dominance for us to have that alt run, the altcoin season, if you like. Okay, so that's the first one I use. That's Bitcoin dominance. The next one I'll talk to is really around the cycle length, okay? So if we think about the cycle length, when I'm talking about the cycle length, I'm talking about from the trough, so the low, the 12 months after the peak, so from there to the next peak. Now, I think that the 17 cycle was around 1,062 days, something like that, 1,064. And then the next cycle was, let's call it around 170. Either way, it was around that mark, right? So probably an average of around in between 164, 172, somewhere like that. If we look at that from this one, then we're expecting the top for Bitcoin to potentially be around 17th of October, okay? Even if it goes a little bit further, you're still talking, we're coming into that period now, right? Which is the important thing. So we're coming into that back end period. You'll have the peak in Bitcoin. You would then have the alt season coming, for a couple of weeks or months after that. So again, it fits in this Q4 narrative, which is why this period is so important. I guess, like statistically, there is so much room still for us with those numbers, okay? We've got that whole last 3 months, okay? Okay, so the third one we're going to look at is the RSI. So this is the third indicator that I use. More to look at. Again, none of these, you don't need every one of these to hit. Some of these will just be guides for you when you're looking at others and making your decision. They're really just to assist in your decision-making process. You can't take any of them to the bank. As I've said, I'm not a financial advisor. You need to do your own research. If we look back at 18, we got to a 94 or 17 into the 18 year. We got the 94 RSI. If we then look at 21 to 22, again, we had a 78 RSI. And then, if we look at where we are right now, look, we're still below the oversold. I do think we will get back into there. We have touched on it earlier this year. But again, that says to me, look, it hasn't triggered yet in a meaningful statistical way. So I don't believe there's a confirmation there of the cycle top. Speaking of tops, if we now look at the Pi cycle top, Again, this one is pretty well known, right? It's one of the most accurate historical top signals that there is. It's called the top almost to the day if we look back at the 18. Okay, so that line there. And again, it's when the 111-day SMA crosses over the 350 or vice versa, SMA times 2. So we can see we've got the crossover there, which is the green crossing over, coming back over the red, or however you want to look at it. But where we get that crossover with the 111-day heading up is where we're seeing this. So almost to the day for that one. Okay, again, just before we saw the top here, that was the April top. If we then come to where we are now, again, they're miles apart. So again, for me, look, you had the flash in April in 2021, and that sort of caught that first peak. It didn't hit for the November one, but again, I feel like that cycle was a little bit messed up with China and Sam Bankman-Fried and all those sorts of things. This cycle, it hasn't triggered yet at all. So statistically, again, we haven't had a confirmation of the cycle top, and that's the fourth indicator I've been using. Now, another one I like is the historic risk levels. So again, these are all the ones I'm going through. A lot of these I do post on X once a week at Crypto Domain X. I post a table that has a lot of these on there because they are the key indicators that I do use. So if we go back again, 2018, now here the risk is the red, the blue is the price. So if we look here again, we can see the risk was up close to 1, okay? So we can see it there, if not 1. If we now come and look at 21, again, we go back to the earlier one in 21 where the risk was again above, it was nearly at 9 for both of those periods, okay? If we then come to where we are now, we're down at 0.5. So really the closer we get to 1, or I'm looking for around anything around above 0.8 is sort of the area that I'm looking at to really start focusing, looking at the other indicators and what can be happening, because I believe that some of these we do get diminishing returns over the different cycles. So we went from 1 to 9. Are we going to go to 8? So really being alert to that, taking a number of things into consideration. But again, another one that hasn't hit or isn't close to hitting where I would expect it to potentially be. Number 6 on my indicators is the Puell multiple. So this is one that sort of analyzes the miner profitability versus the BTC price and that, okay? So at the peak of the miner revenue, if we look at the last cycle, again, you had the peak at the peak of the price in 2017 cycle, sorry. If we then look at the last cycle, which again, 21, let's do out to there, okay? So we can see again, around this March, April period, again, I don't expect it to hit exactly on the day, but we're seeing those higher levels again around the top of the price, and it already started coming down. We can see here with that second top, if you like. But again, I also feel we're seeing a diminishing returns on this. So Puell multiple, you know, let's say it started at there 10.5. If we look at the top for this one, it was around 9.29. We go down from there from 9.3 to 6.6. And then from 6.6 to, let's say, 3. So 3.5, if you like. Now, even if you're roughly halving it each time, which or a bit above, let's say we're looking for a 2. So we have had a 2 back here. Do I think that was the top? Well, no. I do not think that was the top. And we can see with the price as well that, yeah, we're still getting price movement above that here. So I believe that, again, this here is still tracking low. I feel it should be coming back up again to the 2. We're going to see something like this where it came up and then up again. Maybe up again, up. Do we get another up again? again, something I'm looking at, and I'm looking at all of these in conjunction. Okay, then we've got the MVRV Z score. So this one here compares the market value with the realized value, or the fair value, if you like. Again, if we look at previous cycles, again, I feel we're getting that bit of a diminishing MVRV Z score, and we can see that here. Okay, so we had at the back end of 17, again, we had a 10.9. We then had a 7. So, the question really is, where do we feel this? We should be looking at this as our indicator is going to land. Like, where do we feel it will land if we're using it as an indicator? And look, for me, I'm thinking potentially as soon as with the other indicators, if I see the other indicators are starting to hit where I feel they should hit, and this is up here around a 4 or something like that, I'd take it as a reasonable indicator for me that, okay, I could probably tick the box on this one. Not exactly where it's going to go, but it's trending in the right direction. Looking at the other indicators for analysis as well, then I'd go, yeah, it's probably close to where it wants to be. Or if this gets up above a 6 and some of the other ones haven't hit their targets yet, but they're getting close to them, then maybe I'll look at it that way as well. So remember, you're looking at all of these in conjunction. Okay, so next we have number 8, which is the NUPL, or the net unrealized profit loss. So this measures the investor's greed, sort of, or capitulation, if you like. If you look at the last cycles, where it was extreme euphoria at the tops. If we go back and we look, we can see even here at 13, okay, so 2013 we're at 7.8. 2017 was 7.6. In the last cycle, 7.2. Currently at 5.4. So, I'm expecting this to be higher, at least 0.65 to 7, probably closer to 7 is where I would expect to be seeing this. So again, it's just another indicator that hasn't hit where I would expect it to be, as all the other ones I've covered so far are, which, they're all leading to, we have not hit the top of this market. There is still more to come, and it's leading into that Q4 period as we're expecting. Look, we're sitting at optimism, but we're not in euphoria at all in this market at the moment. So just another example of why, or an indicator that shows we're not at the top yet. So the next one is the fear and greed. Now, there's a number of ways you can get this. I use Into the Cryptoverse for most of my indicators. It's a great tool to use. I subscribe to it, so I pay a monthly fee to use it. It's Ben from Into the Cryptoverse. It's his website. It's really, really good for all this information. You can play around with it. You can zoom in on it. Now, for me, but you can get lots of free information as well. You can get, your fear and greed index. You can just grab from, alternative.me is this website here, and get a bit of information there. Now, normally they will be in greed. In 2017, it was extreme greed. 2021, again, it was like peak to the greed. It was at the tops. So at the moment, we're neutral. We have seen some greed, but again, let's go back to here. Okay, so early, you can see around April's, it was a greed. Okay, 75 greed. We don't have the prior one, but again, where are we at now? We have had that one jump out there as greed. We had a few other greeds back here, but again, they're not high. They're not in the 76s. Both of these, let's have a look at these. Okay, that was 75. That was 74. So I'm still looking for a little bit more than where we are for that. Again, I'm looking for greed on these charts when some of the other ones are hitting as well. So it's that combination again, but definitely one of the key indicators that I like to use. Okay, so the next one's the logarithmic rainbow regression band, or regression rainbow. This is the 10th one I use. So if we go, let's just go back to where we can see peaks in the chart. So if we go back to 11, right, we can see 13's the top band, and we're at band 12. Okay, so just remember that, 12. The next one was the 13 bull run, so we went from band 12 to band 10. Okay, so we've dropped 2. If we now go to the 17 bull run, we've gone from band 12 to 10. We're now sitting at this one here, which is band 8. Let's call it just under. So again, 12, 10, 8. That would mean logically I'm going to go band 6 for the next one. So let's test that. Okay, we've got band 12, 10, 8, and then we're at band 6 here. Okay, we don't cross over band 6. So for me, that means that I'm looking at band 4, just going 12, 10, 8, 6, band 4. So if we were to look at this, band 4 is this dark, the 4th one from the bottom here, logically. Now, even if we get a bit below it, all right, now let's assume that the timing of bottoms to top is similar, which took us out to like a mid-October for the top. That's Bitcoin top, remember, not necessarily altcoin. And again, it's a different cycle, so it could be longer. But either way, let's have a look in this range in this last quarter. So this period here, band 4 would be 190. Now, I've been calling around 160, 190 is where I feel Bitcoin will get to. Now, remember, some of the others did fall just below. Now, even if we go out to November, mid-November, how much does that change it by? It goes to 196, so who cares? It's the same. If we then go to December, we've now hit 200. So I don't think anyone's going to complain if it's between 190 and 200 and falls somewhere in this period here. But that's what I would be looking for, and that's where I look at this one. It's more to help me, one, how's it trending for a bit of a timeline? So if we start to see it coming up, I don't think it's going to get over that band. So if I see it up near this band, I feel it's going to be ending. And also it gives me a bit of a guide of where do I feel the price is going to go. Although I don't do things on price, so it doesn't matter. But for those that want a logic behind it, as opposed to, well, still a finger in the air, but some kind of logic behind it, this is how I've come about my estimate of a price. I prefer Rob from Digital Asset News, which goes, it'll be somewhere between $5 and $5 million. No one knows. That's why I'm using indicators. Okay, so that's another good one. The BTC logarithmic regression rainbow I like to use. Now, another one people like to use is the historical risk level. So this is like a it's like a price color risk band, if you like. Okay, so price color risk band. We can see around the peaks how you get that period of red, and not just an odd dot, a period of red. So again, out here we're not seeing that period of red. So again, for me, another one that hasn't hit. So all of these, you'll notice, all of these indicators have not hit, except for maybe one of them bounced off it, have not really hit where I would expect them to hit for this cycle based on what's happened in previous cycles. So, and there's so many of them. Now, if half of them had hit, half of them hadn't, then maybe you might be in two minds, but I'm not in two minds because for me, none of them have hit. And I'm not looking for them all to hit at once, and that's my decision. I'm looking for a combination of all of these to be in ranges, what's going in the broader economy, what's going with price, whole bunch of things. But these are my core indicators I'm using. This one's not an indicator, but I do like to use it. It's a monthly returns. I just like to look at it, bit of fun, see where trends have been going. You know, back here, everyone was going September's a red month. Then we had 2 greens in a row. So people going, it's going to be a red month again. Really? You don't know. No one knows, okay? Reality is, if you look at all of these, okay, and we've got 14, there's 15 by 3, there's 45 months here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 11, 15, and there's 16 of 45 were red. So last quarter is predominantly green, okay? And if we do look back, you get quite a few where you get, you know, all 3 months green. If you look back to like the 17, you had some big moves there, okay? If you look back to 20, you had some big moves in that last 3 months. Is it going to happen again? I feel that we're going to have green in here because that's where I feel the top's going to be, and that's what indicators are telling me, and that's what past cycles are telling me when I'm looking at these indicators. So yeah, we're really getting to the rubber hitting the road point. But historically we've had strong Q4 returns before cycle peaks. Q4 to me still looks primed and still looks like we're going to get a repeat. I'm still into the 4-year cycles. I still believe the 4-year cycles are where we're going to see. Okay. Now, alt season index historical values again. So this is another one. If you look at them, every time we've got the ranges. And when we get these cycles and we get the tops, see how we're getting these high Bitcoin prices, then we get the run. Okay. Again, high Bitcoin prices, the run comes after it. Higher Bitcoin prices, we get the run. So for me, I don't, and the runs are in this red, like we just haven't seen the index up here where it needs to be. So again, for me, it's another indicator that, the greens are the good opportunities for buying, the reds are the good opportunities for selling, and the indicator of when we're in alt season. Again, alt season does not mean every alt's going to run. They will take it in turns, but again, another indicator I'm using, and it hasn't popped off. Now, stock to flow, some people believe in this, some people don't. It has been recalibrated. I don't know. I don't know really, because once it's recalibrated, yes, it will follow a trend because it's been recalibrated. Is Bitcoin going to get to 1.3 million or thereabouts in this period here? No. I just don't think it's going to. Can we get that real big run up? Yeah, definitely. I think without a doubt we could get up to, where is it saying here? Stock to flow 1.2. Oh, it's on the red mark, but can we get to 200K? Yeah, we can. Can we get 250? Possibly. I mean, I'm not banking on it, but I don't think we're getting up to the 1.2. And I know that Plan B, who I believe it is, that came up with this, I think he talks more of like over a 4-year period. There's a chance it can go up to there. So not necessarily the same time frame that I'm working to, but on my time frame, I don't mind having a look at it. I definitely listen to Plan B every month for his view on the market, because I do think he's got a really good view on the market, and the other indicators he goes through. I don't put a lot of stock in the stock to flow for the time period I'm looking at. Not saying it's not going to get there. I fully believe it's going to get over $1 million. I just don't think it's going to do it in the cycle that we would classify as the altcoin cycle, or the peak of this run. And without a doubt, I think most people are counting on the altcoin cycle, and this is very Bitcoin related. Not everyone's counting on the Bitcoin top cycle. They're really waiting for the altcoins, because most people are invested in the altcoins to get a run on the altcoins to roll into Bitcoin. That's generally the way people will work it, especially once they've been through a cycle of altcoins. The next cycle, they tend to have a different investment philosophy. So that's that one. The Golden Death Cross. And Golden Cross and the Death Cross, sorry. Again, if we look at this, let's do a bit of zooming. We can see we had a Golden Cross. Here we had a run up for Bitcoin again to the 67. We then had the Death Cross. We then had it coming down. So what we have not seen, we have had the Golden Cross, and the period of time after the Golden Cross varies on what you're going to get. You look back here from 16, you got it back here, like October 15, and the run and the Death Cross then didn't hit until, March 18. So it varies in time, but we have had the Golden Cross. And again, we've had Golden Crosses where it does stay stagnant for a while. So if we look here from 21, okay, it went very flat for a while, okay? And that's from that's May 20, and then we started getting more of a climb July, October, right? So May to October before we started getting that run up. Now, if we look at when we got this one May. What month are we coming up to? We're coming up to October. So does that mean that we're now going to start to see maybe that peak? Don't know. But what I do know is historically, we do see a bit of a flat before and up. The time periods do vary, but we are getting a bit of a flat. Then we have the up to come. So for me, the death cross will obviously be an indicator I'm looking out for on this one now. Definitely looking out for. But at the moment, there is no death cross. We have had the golden cross. So I do feel that we've still got the upside to seeing the market before we get that death cross. But, we're still apart. We've still got the gap. We need the pink to come back up through the red, or the green, sorry. So, again, still hasn't hit, still not where I'm looking for me to start making big decisions. A couple of other things you might look at are things like your ETFs and your macro flows and things like that. I mean, they'll just be getting in the other cycles. So it will be interesting to see how they play into the top and the peak and then the rundown. Do we see massive inflows into ETFs as part of this cycle? And an ETF investor is very different to the retail investors that have driven a lot of stuff previously, with the fact that they're buying ETFs through your BlackRocks, your Vanguards, etc. They're not then going to be going, sell my ETF and buy me some Doge, or buy me some Brett, or buy me some Casper, or whatever. There are ETFs, the Cardano's looking, so it's good to look at what other projects out there are going to get ETFs, because they may diversify that way through ETFs, but they're not going to sell $1 million worth of Bitcoin and go and buy degen stuff. So that's not going to happen, but it will be interesting to see how the Bitcoin price moves with the ETF flows. And we know, because is there a point where they feel they've milked enough out of the cash cow and we start to see the ETF prices drop, well, not prices, holdings drop quite a bit, and that signals the beginning of the next bear market. So these are things that will be interesting to look at. So you've got the macro flows, you've got the ETF, and they're the sort of things that we'll learn a lot about this cycle, I think. But look, overall, these are my key indicators that I'm using. None of them have hit. So for me, we still haven't had our top. I still feel like we're going to see it in this last quarter. I know a lot of people are saying it could push into 26. Look, if I get these indicators hitting, or a bunch of them hitting, or getting close to where I need, and that's my indication to get out, and I'm sticking to it. I've made that decision with a cool head. I'm not getting emotional about it, so I'm not going to make a decision in a month's time. I'm sticking to my plan. I'm not basing it just on price. You get caught up with price. You need to now sit down, work out what indicators you want to use, or what tools you want to use, want of a better word, tools, price, indicators, price, whatever you want to use. Set your plan now, though. I can't stress enough. Set it now when you do not have emotion involved. Set yourself up for how are you going to move, and set up a plan for each token. So it's not all going to happen at once. So I'm not going to be selling meme coins when I'm selling Cardano, when I'm selling Casper, when I'm selling Bitcoin, there will be different times for those things, but the indicators are definitely going to give me my window. And definitely when I'll be looking at getting a majority of my portfolio out, I may leave 10% into plays with some of the other things. But you do your strategy. This is what I'm looking at. I've already lined up with any exchanges, so I hold except for stuff I'm using, or a small amount which I might have it on exchange. I hold my crypto on cold wallets, so like Ledger, Tangent, things like that. So you then need a plan for what are you going to do when you want to sell. Are you going to sell straight on that wallet if it allows it, and just put it all into USDT, USDC, whatever? Are you going to move it to an exchange and sell it? Are you clear that you might have one as a backup plan because the other one doesn't work? How many exchanges get locked down? Stuff gets frozen. You can't move 5 days. You've got limits. So if you're on exchanges and you have caps on how much you can withdraw daily, go to those exchanges now and do what you need to do to increase that as much as you can. Because if you've got, say something goes really, really well and you've got 50 grand you want to get off, and they go, well, you're only allowed to take 10 grand a day, and the next day the price drops. You may have tethered up or something like that, which will protect you a bit. Or go to them now and say, I want a limit of $100,000. I've got nowhere near that, but I've got a limit of, I've got nowhere near that in my account. But, stranger things have happened in crypto. You could then transfer the whole 50 grand off in one day. Instead of doing it in 5 different days when the market could have turned, anything could have happened, they could have frozen things, the exchange could have gone bust, whatever. So line up those things. Line up a strategy for your sell strategy for your tokens individually. Line up are you using price? Are you using indicators? Are you using a combination of both? Know that historically you think you're going to sell at a price. People will always be saying it's going to go higher. It's going to go higher. This cycle's different. Put all that out of your mind. Set your plan now. Commit to yourself to stick to it. And, look at how you can best prepare yourself, I guess, is what I'm trying to say in all of this is, have your indicators. So have your tools. Set up your exchanges the right way. Have your cold wallets. Don't just have one way that you're going to do this plan. Have backup plans. Okay, so if I can't do that, I'm going to do this. And write them down so you're ready to go. But look, they're the indicators I'm using. This is why I don't believe we've had the top. I believe it's coming in Q4. No indicators have hit historically to tell us otherwise. This is no different at this point for me than any of the other 4-year cycles. I will be waiting. So if it doesn't happen in Q4, I'll still be holding because none of my indicators would have hit. And my whole thing is I'm basing my exit strategy on my indicators. So that will help me. But look, hopefully you got something out of this. If you did, please hit the like button, smash that subscribe button, and remember, crypto's an adventure. I'll see you in the next one.